Hello, Chef.
Hello, Leslie. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Looking
Good.
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 I sent the link this morning again and reminded each class to have their ovens preheating.
Wonderful.
So I left my parchment paper on the counter till now. I was afraid to not be in the room. But it should be okay, but I thought maybe it might fly around in there with nothing weighing it down.
Yeah, it's okay.
So you got the oven preheated. Is Michael going to come in? Because I know he's in the library.
He might. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. And
So
are you
do the
recording
baking pans belong in the oven already?
I'm recording. Yes, I would
Hi.
put the baking pans in the oven. Hello. Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Steve.
And I've got my different views here too. You can see how I'm working. Maybe tried to go a little fancy here with our setup in the kitchen. Oh, there's Michael. I think I'm okay, Michael. You're welcome to come down here if you'd like, though. But it's easier if I don't wear my mask. That's the only thing. But I think if you're masked and we've both been vaccinated, it should be okay.
See how many, do we know how many people have signed up who aren't part of the school? Any ideas about that?
No, I don't know.
Okay, we will find that information out and let everybody know.
Hello,
Yeah.
Chef Reiner.
Hello, Cantor. How are you?
I'm good. I didn't know if I should be cooking along with you or if I should just sit here with my guitar and provide entertainment.
You're welcome to cook along with me, but if you haven't already preheated your oven, it might be better to have you in the background here. So.
Absolutely, I can be in the background. I can.
Thank you, Cantor Debbie. I'm so
Hello.
glad to see you.
Of course,
Thank
good to
you.
see you too. I just threw a brisket in the oven actually, so that's going to be on low for 6 hours. But
I hope you didn't throw it.
basically, yeah, my favorite recipe: throw. No time, just throw it. But well, I'm happy to provide a little background music if you need.
Thank you.
Sure, this is very exciting.
Very exciting.
Yes. Good for you. You're making your own shmura matzah.
I'm making my own shmura matzah.
Why should Chabad have all the fun?
Did Rabbi Tornheim drop off the matzah yet?
Yes.
He did, yes. He did. But we're going to make our own here.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm trying to watch my carbs, so it would be very dangerous for me to make a whole bunch of matzah because I'd be the only one eating it probably. So I'm gonna enjoy watching you make it.
It's really smart of me to wear black today. As in not smart.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
So good to see you guys. I'm so glad you're baking with us.
I'm glad to be here and be given the chance to do this. I've never done this before, so
So cool.
Sort of a
I've
cup of
baked a
water.
bunch of stuff, but
Just-
never matzah.
Thank you.
And I love that everybody can unmute and say hello.
Yep.
Rabbi Reiner's got the headset. This is really impressive.
This would never happen without coronavirus.
Leslie,
One of those.
your apron.
Thank you very much. Rabbi Reiner, I watched a Michael Solomonov, the Israeli-American chef. He cooked from his kitchen in
Thank you.
Philadelphia a few days ago, some fun Passover recipes. But I gotta say, the temple kitchen is a little bit fancier.
Cold water.
Very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. I've got my sous chef in here, Michael Saltpeter, who's helping measure out the water for me. He can't hear anybody though. I'm sorry, but
Rabbi, don't you need a yarmulke to make a kosher Passover?
He's got a big one.
He can bless the chef hat,
He
and
can.
it'll be kosher.
We can't though, can we?
It's under rabbinical supervision, so we are covered.
Are we gonna take a little piece of challah and throw it in?
Just me, nothing. Okay.
we will get rid of it. You know what? Actually, I'm going to do. Should you?
The chef's hat are in the other room. No.
Let's do a whole cup, actually. Yeah, thank you. Make a little extra, yeah. Okay. Thank you. This is my audition for Food Network as well. Maybe I was so impressed. I'll have to say it again when Julie Sachs is back in the picture, so I can be sure that she hears it. But I was so impressed watching Julie baking Hamantaschen with her students. That was part of the inspiration for this. But she did such a great job of involving everybody and getting all together, and it was great. Here's Julie. She's back now. I can shower her with praise. Julie, you'll have to unmute yourself, but the part of the inspiration for this was watching you baking with your students and how well you engaged everybody. So that helped me to try and do this as well.
So I'm so wonderful that you're doing it. Thank you. It's so lovely. I've never made matzah, so I was so excited.
Well, hopefully it will be a great experience here. I've practiced a little bit, and we'll see how it goes.
It should be
I had
fun.
to reread all of the instructions, but you were saying something, Julie. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, there's a movie about Strites. The one
Yeah.
in the Lower East. It's a really fun movie about one of the original Lower East Side matzah factories, which has since closed. But just matzah making is such a special thing. Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely. I watched a little bit. There's Martha Stewart gives a tour of the Strites factory. So
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we can wait just another minute or two as people arrive. Sorry, someone else is saying something.
My dog is saying something, but I'm
Your
very
dog.
impressed with the camera work. Very, very professional.
2 cameras?
We have 3 cameras actually. We'll spotlight our 3rd camera here too.
And excuse
just
me
so
while
you
I
can-
silence my helper.
Just so you can see, we've got the griddle going here. We've got our oven is heating up right now. And we've got the mixing camera right below me. And then I can also switch between the computer camera. So I'm looking and can see everybody. And then we've got another camera up here that I can at eye
Wow.
level. So
But you're missing 2 assistants who are really important.
I know,
Very short
yes.
assistants. They're tiny. They might not show up in the
Well,
camera.
The challenge is there's a lot of wires in here now, and there's a very hot oven, and
Not
going to need
safe.
to be quick here too. So going to be
Yeah.
careful. And
Samson might ask 100 questions and then there wouldn't be 18 minutes.
yes, absolutely. So as everybody's coming in, I think we should get started actually. Cantor, maybe if you'd like to start us off with just a song to get ready. We're going to mute
Sure.
everybody else and enjoy hearing the Cantor sing.
I was thinking about a song that, because you're in the kitchen right now, cleaning and cooking and so many dishes, out with the chametz, no pasta, no knishes, fish that's gefilte, horseradish that stings. These are a few of our Passover things: motzi and karpas and chopped up charoset, shank bones and kiddush and Yiddish neurosis, tanta who kvetches and uncle who sings. These are a few of our Passover things. When the plague strikes, when the lice bite, when we're feeling sad, we simply remember our Passover things, and then we don't feel so bad. That's the short version. Maybe
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Cantor. It was absolutely great. We're delighted to...
Interlude, you let me know.
Yes. I will let you know. So just to explain what's going on here, we are absolutely delighted to welcome everybody to our baking matzah. We've got lots of people who are joining us online in our Zoom session, and also some people streaming on YouTube as well. I want to especially welcome and give a shout out to a colleague and friend, Rabbi Noah Fabricant, who's joining us all the way from New Jersey, and hopefully will be part of the stream one way or another. But it's great to see everybody. It's great to be all together. And just before I get started, a couple of ideas, a couple of thoughts about how we make matzah. If you look online about the process of making matzah, there's a lot of warnings on some websites that say, do not try this at home. It's not because there's any sort of danger about this in terms of danger to life and limb, but it reflects the precision with which matzah is supposed to be made, and that there's very strict rules about how matzah can be made in order to be kosher for Passover. So there are some people who follow this very strictly, and there are other Jews who are a little not as strict in terms of what they do. I was talking with Michael Salpeter, one of our teachers in our religious school, about the different approaches. He's a dentist by training, and we kind of compared it to, you could, if you wanted to, go to the dentist every day and have your teeth cleaned every day and inspected every day, and you could be very careful about it. Or you could go see the dentist a few times a year to have your teeth professionally cleaned, and brush your teeth carefully at home in between. And this is another way that you'll also probably have generally pretty good dental health. So the matzah that we're making is kosher to our standard of kashrut, and we're following very much the basic letters of the law, and certainly following the spirit of the law. The idea that we're making special bread here that is different from the bread we might eat every other night of the year. Just like at the Passover Seder, when we have the 4 questions and we say chametz umatzah, halayla hazeh, only matzah, al achilat matzah. We only eat matzah on this night. And so we're making some special bread. Now, there are different types of matzah that are out there. There is the basic matzah that you'll buy at the grocery store. There is shemura matzah, which is a guarded matzah. But before we talk about it, Cantor, maybe you can sing that of the 4 questions.
Oh, sure. Love that. That would be great. And any of the kids who are going to be doing the 4 questions for the Seder, this would be a good time for you to practice. Just close this door. There we go. Okay. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halaylot, mikol halaylot, shebechol halaylot anu ochlin שבכל הלילות אין אנו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת, not even once, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה שתי פעמים, הלילה הזה שתי פעמים. We dip twice, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבינו בין מסבים, בין יושבינו בין מסבים. הלילה הזה כולנו מסובים. הלילה הזה כולנו מסובים. We're all reclining.
All right, thank you, Cantor, so much. In terms of the levels that we might observe, there's something called Shemura Matzah, which is this guarded matzah, but there's other things that we do to get our kitchen ready in order to bake the matzah. One thing you'll do is to properly clean out your ovens, which we haven't done to the extent maybe that some authorities would want us to do, but we do have this nice little butane blowtorch that you can see that I was able to use to torch our ovens in advance to make sure they were clean, as well as the cooktop that we're going to be using, which I'm going to turn down because it's getting a little bit hot right now. But we're able to clean and very carefully make sure that we're cooking our matzah. You can see the butane here. And Julie, maybe if you'd like to spotlight the our mixing camera. We've got our mixing bowl right here. I'm just going to run through it around one time. Not something we necessarily really need to do, but something that some authorities say we should do as well. So we've made our mixing bowl nice and clean to make sure that there is not any water in it, to make sure that there's not any chometz in it, which is something that would not be kosher for Passover. And now we're going to take our flour. I'm just going to be using organic all-purpose flour. There are some people who prefer to use what's called Shemura flour, which is flour that has been supervised from the moment that it's picked. It's picked on certain days when there's an amount of humidity in the air, and it's guarded every moment from when it's picked to when it is ground at the flour mill, to when it makes its way to the kitchen, to make sure that there's no moisture that's added in, because once the moisture touches the flour, the process of leavening begins. So I'm going to be putting in 2 cups of flour here, and I'm going to put a little bit of extra flour on the side here. It's okay if our mixture is not perfect. People always say to me that baking is a science. Cooking is an art, but baking is a science. So we should be using very careful amounts here, but that's okay. We've got a little extra flour just in case we're going to need some. You can see right here the flour. The next thing that I'm going to do is to start the timer. And the custom is 18 minutes. I'll explain why 18 minutes in just a moment, but I'm going to go turn on our timer. Okay, it's starting. It's starting the countdown from 18 minutes. And now I'm going to pour in, I'm using 2 cups of flour and 1 cup of water. Okay, it might be a little too watery, but that's okay. We're going to pour it in and mix it all together here. And I'm just going to mix mine by hand. There's some people who sometimes you want to use tools or other things, but you can see on your camera, we're just mixing together the flour. It's really amazing if you watch some of the videos online of how this is done, the dexterity that people have as they're mixing together the flour. It's quite impressive. But here we go, mixing it together. The idea, I was exploring the tradition of the 18 minutes, and in Hebrew this is referred to as a meal, and this is a period that dates back to the Talmud, and it's described as the amount of time that it takes the average person to walk a Roman mile. So that it should be about 18 minutes that it would take somebody to walk about a mile. But this is also a period of time that has other purposes in our tradition. It's used to calculate the amount of time. It's 1/4, according to some authorities, it's 1/4 of the time between sunset and nightfall. There's some other measures of time that it helps take up for us. But in general, it's 18 minutes, which is about the amount of time it would take the average person to walk a Roman mile, which is a little bit less than a regular mile as we measure them today. And I don't know if there's any questions, by the way, but if you do have a question, there's the feature of raising your hand on on Zoom. So if you would like to ask a question, maybe you can raise your hand, and Julie, who is helping to coordinate everything off site, can unmute you and help us answer whatever questions you might have. And if you don't have questions, that's okay too. Okay. All right, so I'm still mixing together our flour and water here. Cantor, do you have another song in you? Yes, we'll unmute you. Sure, Diana, wonderful. While we're just mixing it together here.
Had Rabbi Reiner only explained about making matzah, Diana. Had Rabbi Reiner made the matzah with us, Diana. Ilu hotzi hotzi anu mi mitzrayim, hotzi anu mi mitzrayim, Diana. Everybody die, Diana.
Thank you very much, Cantor. So we've mixed together. You can see it's still I'm still kneading it just a little bit here, but I'm ready. I'm going to tear some off here. So there's as I was saying before, the idea of Shemora matzah, which is this guarded matzah. It's made to a much higher level, a much higher standard of care. When I was growing up, the matzah that we used at home was just a regular off-the-shelf matzah. We used it at the Seder. And that matzah certainly could be consumed throughout Pesach by any family, by observant families especially. But the idea of Shemora matzah is also that this is special matzah that you might use during the Seder. So that matzah is done much more carefully and to a much higher standard of care. And I'm going to just kind of make some regular matzah that I believe will fulfill the commandment that we have at the Passover Seder to eat matzah. No, you can leave it there. Thank you. But for some people, it might not meet the standards, and that's okay. We have our different.
Question.
Yes.
From Alan, how do you know how long to mix and or knead the flour and water?
It's a great question, Alan. Thank you. So I'm kind of doing it by hand, just getting a sense of it. But the idea is everything is going to have to be done within this 18-minute period. So that kind of limits how much we're doing here. But I'm showing you, I've kneaded it out here. And now I'm just going to start beginning to make some right here. And I've got a nice little rolling pin here. I actually, you'll notice it's a wooden pin, but I sanded off the pin before we started to make sure that there was no chametz from the last thing that this pin was used for. So I'm making a nice little mix here to get it out and flatten it. I actually prefer to just use my hands though. I think it's absolutely fine. And now you can see we've got our nice dough together. There's also instructions, there's questions of whether or not you need to perforate it. And so the perforation functions kind of in a practical way of making sure that the dough won't rise. And So I'm going to put some perforations in, but you know, there's some who say you don't really need to perforate it as well, whether it's kosher for Passover or not, or whether it is acceptable to use at the Seder to fulfill the commandment, the mitzvah, is another question. And now I've got our nice preheated oven behind me, and I'm going to reach in, and maybe you can switch over to the oven camera, Julie. And I'm going to show you, I'm putting our first piece right on in there. You're not going to be able to see it so well, but there it is. I'm actually going to cook some on the griddle here because I think that's a nice way to demonstrate as well how it's done. And it can really be done with any hot surface. There are some who will insist that it be in a certain level of oven, with wood, with other things. So maybe, Julie, you can read some of the questions that are coming in because I'm having a little trouble reading while I also do my kneading here.
We don't have really any questions, just some comments. Alan said
Okay.
that I was wondering since the timer is going. And Julie said, this looks like so much fun and so messy.
Yes, very messy as well. So thank you, Julie. So I'm just flipping over here, and you know, I also like to make mine a little softer too. And there's a reason that some people would say that the soft matzah is not acceptable. The concern is that the cooking might not be complete at the end of the 18 minutes. So that even though you've made it, it's going to continue cooking after the 18 minutes, which is not acceptable. The idea is that the matzah really needs to be done within the 18-minute period. And the question from Bobby, is baking included in the 18 minutes? Yes. It should be from start to finish in 18 minutes. I'm checking our timer here, and we're actually down to about 10 minutes on our timer. So I'm just putting some onto the griddle here to help it bake a little bit. And now I want to show a slightly different type. And I learned this actually while I was working in Israel for a summer during college. I was working on a kibbutz in the Negev desert. I was working as a tour guide and a cook for groups of American teens who came through. And one of our bus drivers was a Yemenite Jew. Yemen is a country in the Arabian Peninsula. And some of the traditions that evolved there were a little bit different from what we might have here. So one of the things that they have in Yemen is a bread, a special bread called malawach. And if you look at the cutting board right now, I'm going to be demonstrating just how to make some malawach. We use the same base that we would use for our matzah dough, and we're going to flatten it out. And then in between the layers, once it's flattened, I take just a little bit of margarine or butter. You can use either one. Of course, if you're keeping kosher and you're having a meat meal, you might only want to use margarine, which doesn't have any dairy product in it. But I'm using butter right here, right now. And we're just kind of going to be folding it over and then squishing it together. Okay. So it's kind of going to be making a little bit of a layered treat here, kind of like a pastry. Yes. And I see Julie Sachs has had malawach. I don't know if anybody else has had malawach too, but it's great. It can be a little bit hard to find. There are some frozen brands that you can buy now, but we're going to be making a very basic malawach. Okay.
We have a couple more questions.
Yes.
So for the matzah, do you need to use a rolling pin to flatten it, or is that one's preference?
So it's a great question. What I've studied, you know, when I studied about it, there is some rabbinic teaching about how thin the matzah should be, and it should be generally pretty thin. So you have to be careful to make sure that it's thin, and part of that is to make sure that the matzah is actually going to cook all the way through in the allotted amount of time. So here, I don't know if you can switch over to the griddle camera, but we've got some pieces. I'm going to check on our one piece that's in the oven here. And you know, I also just realized I forgot to take out a little bit. There's a custom of removing a little bit before you begin the. It's literally called the challah. This is the part that was set aside for the ancient ritual of sacrifice. So I've got it right here, and I'm just going to take it out. I've pulled it out of the mixing bowl, which you can see, and I'm just going to throw it away. Discard it right there. Okay, very good. So the malawach, the the idea is it's not just specifically for Passover. It can be made at any time of the year. But what I learned was that it actually could be considered kosher for Passover as long as the baking is done within that 18-minute time period. So I'm gonna make some more. It's actually my preference. I really like it too. It tastes very good, but I better make some regular plain matzah here also. Let's see. Another question about this is, can you add other ingredients to the matzah? And in general, the idea is no, that we read in the Haggadah that matzah is halach ma'anya, which means that it is the poor man's bread. So it's supposed to be very, very simple and plain. I think that refers especially to the matzah that is going to be eaten during the Passover Seder for the fulfillment of the mitzvah. Obviously, at other points during Passover, we might spread things on our matzah to make it better. But in general, it should just be flour and water with no other spices added. The process of perforation here helps to make sure that the matzah will bake all the way through in the allotted time. And also, again, to make sure that it's not going to rise. So I'm just going to perforate here. There's a fancy tool you can get to actually do this, but we're just going to do it quickly. Other questions, Julie?
Okay, well, one comment from me. I think we lost the third camera.
Oh.
But I don't want to take away from your 18 minutes.
That's okay. Thank you for letting me know. So I don't think there's anything I can do on the fly here, but I'm taking out a piece of matzah that is completed and cooked. You can see it right here. Okay, I just took this out of the oven. I was worried about that camera. The battery was a little low on the iPad, so I'm not surprised. Such is life. And I'm going to check on our matzah that's up here on top. Turn it over. Okay, you can't really see it, but it's looking good. It's more like a pita bread up on top here. Again, the question of, is this kosher for Passover or not? The idea is, as long as the baking is done in 18 minutes, then yes, it should be. The challenge is, will it continue to cook after that 18 minutes? You know, that when you take cookies out of the oven, for example, they continue to bake for a few minutes as you're letting them cool off, and you just have to make sure that the process of baking is complete. Okay, we've got about 4 minutes to go here. So malawach is absolutely delicious, and the malawach that I'm making does not do it justice, but it becomes a basic bread that's used for Yemenite cooking. It's mixed with some other delicacies. Sometimes you might put shakshuka on top of it, or a tomato base on top of it, and just absolutely delicious. Probably better when you make it not during Passover, just so you can enjoy it a little bit more. But here we go. I'm mixing it up again. Okay. Other questions that came in?
Let's see.
Maybe Julie Sachs, if Julie wanted to, you can share a little bit. Oh, you've got some yachanun out there. Okay. Yachnun. Delicious. You can unmute, Julie. Julie, if you'll unmute, Julie, that would be great.
Yeah, I was just going to show you, I absolutely am addicted to malawach, and I've searched and searched in Israel and all over, and finally found one place in New York that makes it in Nyack. They make it from scratch. It is like heavenly. It's a really popular place called the Art Cafe. I've never had jachnun, but everyone tells me how amazingly delicious it is. It's malawach that's rolled up and cooked for many hours. So I was at the kosher store yesterday, and I bought some, and this is what it looks like. So I'm looking forward to putting it in the oven and having my jachnun to taste, just in case anyone wants to try.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. The same brand that makes the jachnun also makes a frozen malawach. It's a little bit hard to find. The only place I've been able to find it in this area is the Fairway down in Stamford, which I think is closed now, unfortunately. But I imagine maybe it's the kosher butcher in Mount Kisco, they might have it. I don't know. I haven't looked there much, but it's a nice frozen malawach. It's very good. It's too bad you can't see the griddle here, but I'm bringing on the matzah, taking it off the griddle. This is some griddle matzah that you can see on the camera. And here is the first piece of malawach. that I'm putting down onto the cutting board right now. It looks beautifully golden brown. And I'm going to check into the oven on our other big piece of matzah that's in there. It's coming along nicely too. We've got about a minute and a half left before the dough that's left is going to need to be discarded. So the question is, will this continue to cook in the appropriate amount of time? And the truth is, I don't think that this dough that I'm just starting with is going to sufficiently cook within that 18-minute window. So I'm just going to make some more malawach. It's not Passover yet, so it's okay to eat good bread in advance of Passover, and we don't want to put anything to waste here either. So just going to put a little bit more flour down. But Cantor, if you'd like to, maybe we have another song in
Sure.
less than a minute and a half.
Sure. How about a little bit of the Vihisha Amda? I'm absolutely madly in love with this. Yai lai 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 la la lai 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 la lai lai la 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 lai 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 yai lai 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 ya la lai 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 ya la lai lai la 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 lai 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 yai lai 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 vehishe amda lavotenu Lavotenu velanu Shalom echad bilvad Amad aleinu lechalotenu Amad aleinu lechalotenu Ve'hakadosh baruch hu matzileinu Matzileinu miyadam Ve'hakadosh baruch hu
Thank you so much, Cantor. While you were singing beautifully, the timer went off. So at that moment, I pulled out this last piece of matzah. So what we have here, just to explain what's before you on the cutting board, and hopefully you're on the cutting board camera here, you can see it. These were a couple pieces that were finished within the allotted time, finished within the 18 minutes. And we can check to see how they turned out. So first of all is this piece of malawach, which reminds me I'm actually going to flip the piece of malawach that's still on the stove. Okay, there we go. It's getting some nice little burn on it too. So first of all, we have this malawach right here that I'm going to be cutting through. And I want to show you as we hold it up. First of all, it looks amazing and I'm really excited to eat it. But as you can see it, you can look in the middle and some of it actually didn't cook all the way through. So for some people, this might not be acceptable during Passover. It was really hard for me as I was cooking like 4 different things at a time to make sure that everything got on the burner quickly enough, and some of it didn't. But here you can see a beautiful piece of malawach. I'm going to give it to Michael Saltpeter, who's in the kitchen with me. It might be a little hot, Michael, be careful. Now this is one of our pieces of perforated matzah, and you can see how it has cooked all the way through. It's a little bit thicker than probably it should be. Again, I didn't use a rolling pin. So, you know, I'm sure if with a rolling pin, with a better perforator, it would have done better cooking all the way through. It's still a little bit soft, but it's something that could potentially be used for Passover. Now, this is a piece of matzah that was cooked on top on the griddle. And you can see again how it's cooked all the way through. A little bit soft in the middle, still just like a piece of pita. Again, the concern of many rabbis is that this matzah, because it's not cooked all the way through, that there is leavening that could still be happening right now while I'm talking to you, which obviously is after the 18-minute timer has gone off. Another concern is that bread like this just isn't going to last. You know, the matzah that we might buy from the store, I just saw this on a video this morning. It's actually, they start baking it in October once Sukkot ends, and it goes for this period of many months. So in order for it to be, getting a little hot in here too, I'm just going to turn down the griddle as it's smoking a little bit. Be great if there was like a fire behind me or something like that too. The idea is that it needs to be shelf stable. It needs to be something that we can keep on the shelves for a long period of time. And in order for that to happen, it needs to be fully cooked and properly cooled as well. This was the first piece that we made, and you can see that it's actually also still a little bit soft, but it is, again, thoroughly cooked all the way through and been really able to enjoy. So I see some questions that are coming in here. And Julie, maybe you can read some of the questions. I know there's one about the LSU cooking hat, which I'll explain to Bobby. The first student pulpit that I ever served as a rabbi. So when I was in rabbinical school studying to become a rabbi, I'm going to turn on the exhaust fan in here too. Can you still hear me okay? Yes, okay, good. The first student pulpit I ever served was in New Iberia, Louisiana, which is in the heart of Cajun country, and they are all huge LSU football fans, and they gave me this LSU chef's hat because they knew I enjoyed cooking. So that's the explanation of the LSU hat. The question about malawach from Lily and family. I usually at home, I would cook it actually in a frying pan, and it can be done. I made it here on the grill, which I think is great. I would probably not try it in the oven, but in a frying pan or in a griddle would be the best way to do it. It does not need to be poked with a fork though, and it should be able to cook within that 18-minute period from when the flour touches the water. Julie, other questions? I'm sorry, I cut you off before.
Let's see. Jamie said, you missed your calling, Rabbi. You should really do a cooking podcast.
Thank you, Julie. Or thank you, Jamie.
And Cantor said, I don't think Shmura matzah has perforations.
So as I was preparing for today, I was studying Shemora Matzah, and the videos online do have perforations actually, and so they do in some places. The Shemora Matzahs that we get, I'm not sure if Cantor, you saw it more recently than me, so it might not have perforation, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the idea of Shemora Matzah also is that it's made entirely by hand, where at the Streitz Matzah factory, they're using a mixer. The Shemora Matzah is really made by hand. And to explain as well that after each batch of dough, everything that comes in contact with the dough needs to be thoroughly cleaned. So this bowl that I used for mixing would need to be thoroughly cleaned. Especially with the Shemora Matzah, if they use a rolling pin, they only use the rolling pins one time. And then they take them out of commission. I think that they can sand them to a certain extent and then reuse them for another batch of the Shemora Matzah or to make other matzah as well. Any other questions?
Cantor said, can everyone hold up their matzahs they made?
Oh, it's a great idea, Cantor. Yes, we will all hold up our matzahs. And as Julie Sachs or somebody said, that the Shemora matzah is so expensive. Absolutely. So Shemora matzah usually costs about $20 a pound, I think, or maybe more than that, maybe $60 a pound. $60 a pound, Michael Saltpeter is saying. It's quite an expense. Regular matzah, you pay, I don't know, like $1 a pound maybe, or something like that. So it's quite expensive because it's handmade with all this special work in the process. Thank you, everybody. Do you have a favorite brand of matzah? I always like Manischewitz matzah. That's my favorite, but Given what matzah tastes like, I now understand why the Hillel sandwich shop never became successful. Very good, very good. Yeah, maybe share your favorite matzah in our chat. That's great. Cantor Debbie likes Yehuda matzah. Aviv matzah, very good too. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Julie Sachs. The malawach, by the way, I love the malawach. It tastes absolutely delicious. So I recommend you try some, to make some at home during Passover. Any other questions? Cantor, maybe a closing song for us would be wonderful. We'll unmute you.
Kind of a fun song to the tune of Be Our Guest. Be our guest, be our guest, put our Seder to the test. All you have to do is come on in and we'll provide the rest. Here's some wine in a cup, just recline and drink it up. It will be your favorite flavor if it's Concord grape you favor. Life is sweet, life is good when you're in our neighborhood. And when you are here, Elijah, we are blessed. Just park your golden chariot, you don't need a Marriott. Be our guest, be our guest, be our guest.
All right, thank you, Cantor. And thank you all. It was so great to see everybody, to be part of it. And we wish you all a Chag Sameach v'Kasher, a happy and kosher Passover. Thank you for being part of this. If you make more of your own matzah during Passover, please be sure to send a picture. Hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Oh yes, the Shir Shalom Seder, Sunday evening, our community Seder. We hope you'll join us. It will be a lot of fun for people of all ages, a very special night. So hope you'll join us Sunday, a week from today, March 28th. I can't remember the time off the top of my head, Cantors. I think it's 6 p.m. is what we settled on. So, okay. Thank you all. Happy Pesach. If you want to unmute people, Julie, you can unmute people.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Scott Trachtenberg, is your matzah shaped like a heart? That's awesome.
Certainly it is, yeah.
Okay, I thought you did that on purpose.
Ah,
Oh, okay, all right.
we know what to do next time.
Mazel tov, yes, to you.
Or Ruben, you can probably make chocolate.
Rabbi, thank you. Thank you. We have so much. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy holiday, everyone.
Podcast on the horizon.
Let's
Thank
make
you.
toasted onion
The
matzah.
18 minutes thing, it was from the start of the water, not from the cooking.
That's fun. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Love your
Thank you all.
Stay well. Thank you.
I don't know how to clean the rolling pin.
How's it turn out?
Sand it. You can sand it, or you can dip it in boiling water as well.
Rabbi,
Yes.
well, we gave some for my mom to try, and she said she usually hates matzah, but this one she actually likes.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
So she told us to tell you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the kindness of her heart too. I'll see you in just a minute for Sage, okay?
Oh, yay. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.